Hey, how's everybody doing? And welcome to the fish room. Today I thought I'd do a little update video showing off a lot of the guppies in the fish room. So I do a lot of different things. I breed guppies, shrimp, bristlenose plecos. I've done different things in the past, but currently I've been focusing on my guppies. I want to kind of do a little highlight, kind of a fish room tour or a guppy tour today. We're going to look at some of the guppies that we have and more so the baby guppies because we have a few tanks in here of all fry that are within a week to days old. So let's go ahead, let's take a closer look at each tank. I'm gonna put a light on some of these tanks to brighten it up, and we'll go ahead and take a look at the guppies and some of the fry. First tank we gotta look at here is by far my most successful guppy breeding tank right now. It's a 55-gallon tank. I have 2 sponge filters running, lots of acrylic yarn. You can see the acrylic yarn there. We have some acrylic yarn tied to like a wine cork. Kind of helps it float with some fake plants. Then over here is kind of the heart of the tank. Lots of acrylic yarn at the bottom, and we've grown some Java moss on top. The Java moss is really beneficial for the tank. It's going to give lots of hiding places, lots of food source for the fry, and it just I think it looks really nice too. Even though it's kind of a breeding tank, it doesn't really have more of a show tank quality. It's not very pretty, but I do like this tank. Recently I have some wisteria floating in this tank, which might start to grow and kind of cover the top of the water. But let's look at the guppies. I mean, there are just hundreds of month to 2 month old guppies, probably only about 10 adults in this tank, but they're doing well. We have a couple males here. They're getting a little bit older, but doesn't focus too well because the light's very strong from above and not from the side. But they have very large tails, and when they're younger they hold them super well. Now they do pretty well and they look good, but it's just kind of a bad quality, and the current in this tank's very high, so they kind of float around the tank. They are really cool fish. I don't want to take away from them, but right now they're kind of swimming in the current. We have some big females in here. They're very old. They're starting to get kind of crooked backs. But you can see all the babies in this tank, kind of the next generations. Like stuff like this are about to be breeding here shortly, having fry, like that juvenile female there. She's already pregnant. We have the smaller ones, pretty much the whole tank here is in that 2 month range where they're large enough that where they're not babies, there's no chance of being eaten, but they're still not having fry themselves. And then if you look more closely, this is within the last day or two. Check out all these babies kind of just hanging out right on the outskirts of the moss. Tiny little fry. And it's so cool to see a tank like this where it's so evolved and the tank is so used to seeing babies all the time that the parents don't even go after those. You see the adults hang out at the top, the medium ones kind of hang everywhere, and then the babies hang on the outskirts and down in the moss. So this is a perfect example of a community breeding guppies for profit tank. Really cool in my opinion. It kind of gets unorganized to a degree, so it's a little bit of a downside. I would say if I had anything to say against this tank is that it's not very organized in your breeding. You have to really keep checking in. I'll come back and I'll find here's a young male here. See the one with more color? Let's see, I'll point at him. And the quality is not perfect, I do apologize. But when you get real close, it's nicer to not have too much light. You can actually see the fry. But you gotta check in on the females and the males as they're growing. The most important thing is over time, you don't want this to go wrong and have a lot of low quality guppies. But you definitely can community or colony breed guppies. Obviously people do that for years, but it's really cool to see a tank like this where you can see they're actually schooling. They don't really hang out by the high current. This is where most filtration is. A few hang out there, but the whole tank is pretty much right here in this corner, the top right. And there's so much going on, from the adults hanging up here, all of the juveniles, and then even the brand new babies are still part of the tank. They're not eating them because there's so much hiding where if they go at them, they just dive down. And after a while, they get kind of bored of that and they stop even trying. And the babies come out further and further till they're older, and then there's part of the whole ecosystem. So it's really cool. I just want to kind of share with you. And I know it's hard to see a few of these. We can pull a light out and look at them, see if it helps at all. But we'll take a look at a few other tanks. So this here I have, it's called like a Husky 600 lume light. It's super bright. Woo, there you go. But I use it for my garage. I have another YouTube channel actually. Any of my subscribers, if you want to check it out, I have a YouTube channel and I have a motorcycle. It's kind of new. But I started a YouTube channel on that. If you want to check it out, that's the name of it right here. If you want to go check it out, give me a follow, subscribe. I'd appreciate it, but if it's not your thing, don't worry about it. But I use this light in my garage when I'm doing maintenance, so I'm going to try it out today on some of the fish tanks. It is super bright compared to using like a flashlight, but I think we might lose some of the quality on the fish because it's not really going to probably focus that well for us. But this is just a super nice bright light. I figured I'd try it out for a few seconds. I do like it. I just got it a few days ago. It was like 15 bucks from Home Depot, so you really can't go wrong. In person when you're looking, it's really helpful. On camera, it's probably not going to help too much, but it's really cool to light up the room in a quick, like all you do is press a button, it runs off a few batteries. This is that light by, I might put a link in the description for this, but I don't even know if it's even on Amazon. I bought this at Home Depot, it was 15 bucks. They even got these magnets here. If you have a garage or like a wall, you stick it on the garage door and then it'll just kind of hang there and you can use it for light in the room or on the roof. But let's get back to the video. Let's look at some guppies. I just gotta get kind of sidetracked, but I do think that's a cool product. It was 15 bucks from Home Depot. It doesn't really benefit me, but if you want to check out those lights, they're pretty cool if you're looking at your tanks at night or you want to get a close look at stuff. Because the flashlight's like $10 at least, and it's not really that bright. This thing just kind of lights up the whole area, and it's pretty cool. So let's look at some more tanks. Here we have a 10-gallon tank, and this is kind of a cool setup. Where it was really just a pair of guppies. I had some snails and some shrimp. I threw some acrylic yarn in there. But if you see, fighting the glare a little bit, there's a decent amount of baby guppies in this tank. And we'll kind of follow them around. You can see a couple right here. There's two there, another one there. Kind of jump around. They're, I think, 2 or 3 days old. So they're very young. Really cool tank right now. But what I did was, this is kind of funny, I have just a really large size net here because I think there's 2 juvenile guppies in there. There's the mother and we had the dad, or just a male guppy. He wasn't really the dad, but I just picked out a pair from like a colony tank. He ended up passing away after like 4 or 5 days, which was kind of random. I have no idea why. But I put him and the 2 juveniles in the net. So it's kind of your own custom breeder box. Instead of buying a breeder box, just get a large net, prop it up. I have like a custom little lid there because that's where the water's bubbling up, so it kind of helps from it splashing out of the tank. Just kind of hang it on the frame. So I have this big net here. I have the female after she gave birth and 2 of her babies from probably a month ago. Yeah, her last drop. So she only had like 2 babies and maybe she ate the other ones, but long story short, I had her in the tank by herself. I was feeding powdered food every day, kind of letting her be by herself so the male wasn't chasing her. And she eventually, after like 5 days, she had her babies. I only saw 2 hanging out in the corner. I was like, oh, it's a very small drop of fry, kind of stinks, but cool, there's some babies. So I caught her out, I put her in the net with the male and the other 2 month-old babies. And after about 4 or 5 days of just feeding the tank, all these babies kind of just appeared. It's really cool. Where I searched the entire tank. I was like, oh, maybe there's some hiding, but I looked really closely. I couldn't find anything. Like I said, I was just searching the tank. I was looking around. I had like 2 babies in the top corner. So I was feeding them and they had no chance of being eaten because I separated them. I put them into the net. So that's kind of a good tip. If you have just a pair or you're starting a tank off, you want to breed them and at least get your tank started. Even if you want to breed guppies just once or twice and have the babies grow up and then fill your tank up. So say you want to go to just something simple, go to Petco, buy a male and 2 females for $10, whatever, they may be $2 or $3 each, and you have a 50-gallon tank or whatever it is. You want to have 30 guppies, but you don't want to buy 30 guppies at the store. So you can just buy a few, let them breed, let them hang out, do their thing, keep the tank healthy. Once you see, what I did was I could see she was very Like right now she looks pretty big, but she was even bigger. It's kind of hard to see her through the net, but she was super squared up. Her stomach was boxed up. I knew it's been about a month because I take records here. I write on the tank whenever I add them to the tank, whatever the strain is, when the fry are born. So maybe they have 1 or 2 babies and the rest get eaten. Mark that date, and then maybe 25 days from then, you know she's about to have babies. It's about every 28 days, once a month, they're gonna have some more fry. Go ahead and separate everybody. Put them in a net, put them in a breeder box, leave the pregnant female in the tank till she has her fry. Add some more plants, add some acrylic yarn, whatever it is. Give some more for the fry to hide once she has babies. Maybe turn the lights off for a week so it's harder for her to see the babies when she has them. But let them have the babies, catch the female out, put her in the breeder net, let the fry grow for 2 weeks. They get a little bit of size, they start eating, they grow. That way you're kind of ensuring that they're gonna live. Then you can release them all back, let them do their thing, and then you have a tank of now 20, 30 guppies. It could be 60 guppies, it could be 10 guppies, whatever, how many babies they have. But it's really cool. You have a lot more fish in that tank. It doesn't cost you as much. You're way more attached to the fish. It's so much cooler that you're like, wow, like I let those fish breed, like I raised them. I did something to make their life happen. So it's really cool. That's what I think guppies are so cool for. And then when they get bigger, they actually develop color. There's certain things like guppies are one of the coolest fish out there. I mean, if you're watching this video, people love the guppy videos, and there's absolutely a reason for it. It's not random. It's not like a certain fish that looks cool and there's like, wow, like a neon tetra. It's my favorite fish ever. Like, there's a lot stuff going on with the guppies that make them even cooler, and there's so much stuff going on with them. So that's okay. We'll move forward, but that's kind of a little bit of my aspect on the guppies. Just a couple of things I think that are cool about the guppies, and kind of showing this tank and giving a little backstory on how I got the fry to survive and what they look like today. Because they're only maybe a week old now, not even like 5 days or so. But they're really cool. We'll look at a few more tanks and we'll wrap this video up. So down here we have another tank. The guppies are probably about a little over a month old now. They put on a lot of size. They're doing great. So what this was, if you watch any of my older videos, this was a drop tank. So I filled the entire tank full of acrylic yarn. Over here is actually what it looks like for my next project. But that's what it was, all that acrylic yarn. If you want to know what that is, it'll be in the description below. It's basically, it's yarn, but it's safe for aquariums. It's not going to hurt your fish in any way, but it adds tons of hiding places and adds places for bacteria to grow, basically like a filtration for your tank. But here we had all that in there. We put one pregnant female. She had babies within 2 or 3 days because I knew she was ready. And we can just see all the guppies at the top of the tank here. If you can see the breeder, we have a breeder box in the back. But you can just see tons of baby guppies at the front of the tank, all hanging out up here. They're doing well. I maybe made 1 or 2 calls to ones that were kind of small, or the runts, they were just pretty weak. But after that, they're looking really good. And this is just a simple tank where breeding fish for profit, or breeding fish is to multiply your tank or have more fun with guppies. It's pretty easy, where if you have a couple of spare tanks, or you put in some extra time to notice things or keep track of dates whenever you see babies, it really can pay off. And it's very, I mean, it's a hobby and it's enjoyable. So we got probably a good 20, 30 guppies in this tank, all from one female. I separated, put in a 10-gallon tank. She had her babies. I put her back in the big tank. I took out all the yarn after like a week, so they got a little bit of size to them. And the rest is history. We have a bunch of guppies here. We're growing up, and eventually they'll be for sale or back in the big tank. We also have a breeder box over here. This is separate. It was one of my other videos. Really cool here. This is different than most of the breeder boxes you've ever seen, myself included. I'll put a link for this in the description. What it is it's a box actually that's in the tank. There's a lid on it. You can feed through the side. Also, it has these vents, so it gets water on both sides, and you actually can see the fish from the front. So you can see them here. There's a water exchange on the sides. Then here is a filter, so it's pumping air, pulling water through this vent of the tank up to the top, where it's thrown into the breeder box, and it kind of disperses left and right. through those side vents. So really just making the tank exactly the same water parameters inside. You don't need an extra heater. The water is going to be the same temperature. It's going to have the same nitrates, ammonia. Everything's exactly the same, but there's zero chance of the parents getting in there and eating the babies. So I have some guppies. It's going to be hard to see the actual guppies in there, but they're from a totally separate aquarium where I caught out some different color patterns that were kind of unique, and I put them in there. But that's a pretty cool breeder box, or like a fry container you can check out. I'll put that in the description like I said. I'm dropping a lot of products today only because I use them. Benefits me very little, if any at all, but I just want to share with you guys some of the products that I use and how they can be profitable or just fun and beneficial to you. So that's pretty cool. You can have a little box in your tank if you want to breed some fish. Put a female in this tank with a bunch of acrylic yarn. Maybe she'll have them in there. You put her back in the big tank. Even if it's only 10 gallons of water, you can do this on a small scale versus a 1,000-gallon pond. Whatever it is, you can work on different scales and kind of breed your guppies. But at the end of the day, I'm just trying to show you my setup and kind of show you some cool baby guppies. So let's look at a tank or two more. We're pretty much done here, but I just want to share with you guys today and show you a little update on the tanks. Okay, so last tank we're going to look at today, this is the drop tank I showed in an older video. If you want to see that video, watch till the end. I'm going to put a link for it. But basically, it's really simple, but it's really cool to watch it actually work, because sometimes you set this up and it doesn't work. But really all it is I have a tank with all this acrylic yarn. It's a 10-gallon aquarium, simple sponge filter. You could throw a heater in there. My room's heated, so I don't have to worry about it. But you could set this tank up for probably $20 or less, and just one time of your fish having babies in here and them living and not being eaten, they'll pay for themselves over time, and you can do it multiple times over. It's also fun. It's like a cool hobby. But we've got babies over here on the side. There's probably 5 or 6 of them there. There's one jumping through the yarn at the front. Really simple tank. You can see all the guppies in here. I don't really want to go much longer on this because I don't want to be repetitive, but it's really cool. I want to do an update on the guppies today. Breeding guppies is a lot of fun. If you want to do it for profit, if you want to do it for fun, you just want to experiment with stuff and kind of have an aquarium for the first time, or after years of not having an aquarium, you want to get back into it. It never gets boring to have a fish have babies in a tank and you see the fry the next day, and then you can watch them weeks and months later grow and evolve. Very cool process. I'm going to wrap the video up here. If you liked the video, like it, comment below what you liked about it or what you didn't like about it. And if you're not already subscribed, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when I upload new videos. Thank you all again. Check out some of these older videos I'm posting on the screen here, and I'll talk to you guys very soon. As always, if there's anything you guys want to see coming up, comment below. Let me know what you guys like to see, because I do these videos for myself because I enjoy them, but also for you guys. So if there's certain things you want to see, let me know. We're working our way to 5,000 subscribers. I want to share my videos with more of you guys. I want to do what you guys want to see. So thanks again. I'll talk to you guys in the next video.